So this is common import errors. We kind of get the same ones a lot, but there is loads of different import errors that you can get. These are just a few of the main ones, I think, to start you off. So have you got the correct import file for the correct area of the system? So you might be putting a purchase invoice on, but you might be trying to import into purchasing rather than AP. These are different files. They'll look different. There's an AP purchase invoice file, and then there will be a purchasing transactions file somewhere, purchase order transactions. So they're different files. So if you're trying to upload a purchasing file in the AP section, it's not going to work. It's just not going to register it at all. So yeah, correct that you're using the correct file for the correct area of the system. So some of the headers might be the same, but some of them are slightly different. So for example, the AP file looks at GL codes and the purchasing file looks at items. So it's different. Okay, so that's the first one to make sure that you're doing properly. The second one is the date format filled in correctly. So day, month, year. Sometimes it does show as month, day, year. So that's here. So just double check that. Sometimes it does change. It kind of remembers it once you do it. So sometimes it'll just be the first few times you do it, or it might be the first time you do it in a certain entity or something like that. It should remember it, but just check it and remember it. It's just a quick check when you go on to do it. Okay, that's an easy one. So the next one, are all the fields filled in the correct format? So Intacct is very, very sensitive. If your dimension code is capital D 101, it won't accept a lowercase d 101. If your terms are set up as 30 net, capital N, it won't accept just 30 or 30 lowercase n. It needs it to be exact. It's what it's looking at. So these supplier IDs, like I say, these will all need to be exact. The terms, if I just click onto terms here, these would need to be exact. They need to say exactly what they mean. And what was the other option? I give you the dimensions. So again, they'd need to be exact. So you won't write sales, for example. You put in the IDs in, and the IDs would need to be the same. Okay, so are you at the right level? So top level versus entity level. This is a good one to check because your system might not necessarily be set up to give you an error for this, but it is always something that just to be really mindful of, because you might pop on a file and it's the suppliers, for example, and your company's policy is to put suppliers at top level, or you might be adding invoices and you're supposed to be putting them at entity level and you've stuck them on at top level, and then you go to pay them at entity level, you can't find them, things like that. So always just make sure you're at the right level and you're putting it in the right place in the system that you need to be importing it in. Okay, and the last one that I've popped on there is, are your values formatted as numbers? So Intacct, again, like I said, is a very sensitive little soul and it doesn't like the currency symbols, the commas, anything like that. So if you've got your file here set to accountancy or something like that, I do have on a lot of my spreadsheets. So you have to make sure that that won't like that. It will spit it back out. It doesn't want it. So it needs to be on number. I think you can also put it on text. I always pop it on number, but so yeah, that's just another thing to look out for. So what you will get is error messages that will come through on your system. So the error messages are quite self-explanatory a lot of the time. So they will kind of say invalid department, for example, and you'll think it is a valid department, D101 is a valid department, but it won't say this is an invalid department, you've put a lowercase d, for example. So it's not going to be that obvious, but it will just tell you like, think something's invalid or format's invalid or something like that. So yeah, so there are some of the really common popular ones that you get.